Hello, my friend. You are listening to Pod episode number 31. And today we are digging deep, my friend. That's right. We're getting right down to the core of the matter, and we are talking about your core values. Yes, these are those very special words and phrases that are vital, and they are just like the guiding principles for your team and your business as a whole. There is so much goodness in core values that I am giddy to explain to you and really just break down in a super easy to understand way so that you can get started by creating core values for your team and for your business today. So if you are as ready as I am, let's just go on and get settled in and we will do this thing.
Hi there. Thanks for tuning in to Pod, a podcast crafted by Tiana Tai to help you purify your purpose in business, love, and life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, dog mom, or just getting started, you're bound to find value as Tiana dives into meaningful topics each episode. So, settle in, turn up the volume, and welcome your host, Tiana Tai.
I've got to take just a quick second to ask you for a serious bit of support. Pod would not be possible without your reviews, your comments, and just all of the positive feedback that we've been receiving so far. So if you haven't already, please go on, hit subscribe to make sure you're not missing out on any of this good and free content, and also be sure to leave a review. You may think that I'm not looking at them, but I swear to you, my friend, I read every single review and it just makes my heart so happy. So if you haven't already done so, hit pause, leave a review, and then let's get back to the goodness. All right, so let's just go ahead and get this show on the road. And you know me, we've got to start at the basics. What actually is core value? What is a core value for your business? What does this mean, right? We got to take it down to the nitty gritty. So first, I want to start off by defining a personal value because a lot of us have heard this before, right? It's like, what do you value as an individual? She says so philosophically. So a personal value is simply a belief that guides your choices and actions. And a lot of us, whether we have them listed out explicitly or it's just something kind of in our heads, I am honest with anybody, right? That's just something that I believe in and I embody on a daily basis. That would be a personal value. So it's kind of like one of those measuring sticks that conveys what's right and what's wrong for you based on your morals, your beliefs, all of those things. And actually, this is a major blast from the past, my friend. If you've been rocking with Pod since the beginning, you actually probably remember that all the way back in episode number 1, I shared my thoughts on personal values. In that episode, we explicitly talk about figuring out your own personal values and using them to help you purify your purpose and live intentionally in every single thing that you do, right? So that is the whole spiel on personal values. So now you may be wondering, okay, if that's a personal value, what is the difference with core values? Well, first of all, when I'm speaking about core values, we are applying this super directly to the context of your business. So simply put, a core value is a belief that guides your business's actions, it unites your team, and defines your brand, all right? So these are the values from a business perspective, and they are no longer only about you. They're about your whole team, and they're about how your clients and community experience you all as a unit, as a business. You see what I'm saying? So if you're a solopreneur, I've got to say this. You may find that right now at this season of your business, your personal values and your core values are one and the same. As we go through this, you may not really make many changes. It may seem, these are still pretty obvious to who I am as an individual, and that's okay. That's one of the, consequences of doing this as a solopreneur. But let me let you in on a little secret. I did this exercise absolutely when I first started my business as a solopreneur. And now that I'm building out my team, I personally, my very modest team, I have begun to kind of tweak things and feel things out and think about things in the context of my team and of my business as a whole. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But just know that you don't need to feel pressure around the fact that your personal and core values may kind of go hand in hand right now. Really, we're going to be looking at this from the perspective of, okay, are these values still going to hold up to the people that I one day hope to be a part of my business? And would these values really help me make sure that the people I want to bring in are truly a good fit? Now I'm talking to my leaders that already have a team in place. Whether you're like me and your team is still relatively modest, maybe 2, 3, 4 employees, right? Or contractors, obviously. Or maybe you've been around the block for a while and you've got 10, 12, 15 people on payroll that are consistently feeding into your business on a day-to-day basis. Your personal and core values may end up being a bit different. How does that happen, right? That's the question I get all the time. It's like, if I'm the founder, the CEO, the mad mind behind this fantastic business, how is it that my personal values may not necessarily translate directly into my core values for my business? And here's the thing. The values that you're considering as a solopreneur are obviously highly personal and they are aspirational. And that's what you solopreneurs listening to today's episode, you're going to realize that as you work through this, because you don't yet have a team in place, these are values that are aspirational. These are values that you hope for your team members to embody and bring into your business, right? And you can be strategic about doing that, but it's still aspirational at this point. Now, for you that has a team already, obviously things get real when we've got a team in place. Like, this is where the rubber meets the road. And looking at things from the business perspective, including your team in that conversation, will really just open your eyes up to some values that you may not consider when you're only thinking of yourself, right? So seriously, what I want to encourage anybody listening to this right now is, even if you are totally alone, whether it's because you're a solopreneur or because you're just the CEO taking some time for some learning and you're sitting down at your desk or on your couch or wherever alone, I do want you to start thinking about this on your own. I want you to start drafting up ideal core values on your own as we walk through this. But in the end, for any of us, it will be invaluable to get the input of your team at some point. There is no I in core values, right? So I will use myself as an example here. Although I started with my personal values way back when, and then I started drafting up core values for me and my modest team. Obviously, as my team grows and as we develop, I want to encourage us to revisit these core values. Think about, me with my singular, highly individual perspective, right? I may have missed something, or someone may, we may be doing a brainstorming session and someone may come up with something where I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are so right. That is so core to who we are and how we actually operate as a team in real life, right? Not just in our heads. So that's what I got to say about that, my friend. But yes, absolutely be sure to bring this conversation to the people that you will actually be working with, whatever that timeline looks like for you. But we are ready to just dive in and start getting those wheels turning for you around what could your core values look like. And we're going to give you some really fun examples right after this. This episode is brought to you by Interact. Remember those BuzzFeed quizzes like, what type of ice cream are you? Yeah, Interact is a tool for creating quizzes just like those, except it also acts as a way for your business to generate leads and build that oh-so-important email list. I use it to host my quiz, What's Your Enneagram Leadership Type? With hundreds of ready-made templates and the option to create unlimited quizzes from scratch, you will literally have hundreds of opportunities to attract the right clients, especially new ones. Don't miss out on this beautiful opportunity to grow your business in a fun and unique way. You can sign up for Interact today by heading on over to the show notes and getting a link to create your first quiz for free right now. That's right, I said it is free 99 to create your first quiz. It doesn't get much better than that. Okay, so who loves examples as much as I do? Sometimes I feel like I can't even start the brainstorming process until I'm like, what do other people's look like? I'm not going to tell you a lie. It's like that inspiration for us all, right? So I found out 2 companies that I really like, and I really like their core values. So I figured it would be worth sharing with you now. The first is Airbnb. And for those who don't know, my husband and I are Airbnb hosts. So we're actually like super hosts, Airbnb plus whole shebang. So I know this company relatively well, I would say. And I happen to adore their core values. So they have 6 of them. And these are 1, champion the mission by living the mission. 2, be a host. 3, simplify. 4, every frame matters. 5, be a serial entrepreneur. And 6, embrace the adventure. Right? So even without like wasting our time by going into a deep explanation, some of those are very obviously unique to Airbnb, like the be a host and embracing the adventure, right? So these wouldn't necessarily even apply to our business models. And I think that is what's really, really great. Because when you're identifying core values that truly like differentiate you from your competitors and from other businesses, like that's how we're making sure it's specific and it's meaty and it really is going to matter for how your company is truly functioning on a day-to-day basis. Okay, second one that I thought you would find pretty interesting is Zappos. So a lot of us know Zappos because they do a lot of things differently, and I am here for it. And if you're not familiar, they are a shoe company, super awesome. And what I loved just like off top from looking at Zappos core values is that literally on their website, it's what we live by. And they're just like making a stand and saying, this is who we are and this is how we operate in this company on a day-to-day basis. I love that. So their what we live by are deliver wow through service. 2 is embrace and drive change. 3 is create fun and a little weirdness. 4 is be adventurous, creative, and open-minded. 5 is pursue growth and learning. 6 is build an open and honest relationship with communication. 7 is build a positive team and a family spirit. 8 is do more with less. 9 is be passionate and determined. And 10 is be humble. Okay? So what you may notice, just like some differences in between those 2, major difference right off the top is that Airbnb has 6 core values and Zappos has 10. Now, I love the book Traction. I don't know if you guys have read that one yet. Put it on your reading list if you haven't. But their kind of stance in that book is that you should have between about 5 and 7, maybe 3 to 7 core values. And a big part of that is that we are going to utilize your core values in so many ways throughout your business. Like simple truly is better, okay? But at the end of the day, as long as your core values are truly what matters to you and what like differentiates your business, what sets the tone for your business and for your people, right? How you guys want to be known in the world as a business, as a company, it's fine. Now, I do like simple. So even as I'm building my own out, I'm like trying to figure out how do I get these down to 5? You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind as we continue on the conversation. Now, one other little piece I have to, put on your heart before we move on and I explain exactly how you're going to come up with these for yourself is this, okay? Remember, Zappos calls them what we live by. This is so important because if you're going to stick with me for another 10 or so minutes to create this list of core values, it cannot just be some document that sits in your Google Drive and you spend an hour on it once and then it disappears, okay? Your core values are truly going to be something that we thread through so many pieces of your business. You just wait until the end of this episode to figure out where. So, please. If you're thinking, I'm just going to like make this list because people are telling me I need to do it, my friend, save your time. This is not a check the box activity, okay? This is a beautiful brainstorming session that we are about to start, but then it's going to get pulled through so many different areas, all right? So more on that later. Let's get right into defining your business's core values. So we're about to start brainstorming if you're ready for it. So there are a couple of questions that you can really ask yourself to start this brainstorming process, just with yourself first. And then if you already have a team in place, we definitely want to bring them into the conversation and ask them these same or similar questions later on. So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, what are your personal values? This is often a great place to start, especially for you solopreneurs who are listening right now. And you're just like, I don't have a team to to contact and rely on for this. Okay, that's totally fine. Start with yourself. And for those of you who do have a team, still a really good place to start just the brainstorming. So think about, for you personally, what matters to you. I remember in my first episode 1, when I talked about my values, I talked about my ABCs. And my ABCs were authenticity, balance, and curiosity. Still 3 very important things to me, but ironically, I am finding that they are not necessarily translating into core values. More on that later. But what you can do is sit down, look at just lists of adjectives, right? So what is it about you that you just love and you live by in your life? Are you adventurous? Are you, is authenticity a super important part? Is integrity or honesty or a can-do attitude or resilience, right? Like all of these really great descriptors, that's where I want you to start. Start thinking through what is so important to you and the work that you're doing on a daily basis. All right, second question. What are the values that are critical to your business's success? Okay, so again, if you start thinking about how you have been operating in this space as an entrepreneur, whether it's just you or you have the team, what has made you successful? Okay. Is it your resourcefulness? Is it your resilience? Is it your focus on serving your clients the best way you know how? Only you can answer this question at the end of the day, but truly think through, what has differentiated you in your space? What has made you stand out? What do people just expect from you? Like, what do they expect to experience when they use your services or buy your products, whatever the case may be? Okay, so again, what values are critical to your business's success? All right, number 3. What do you want your business and your team to be remembered for? I love this one. So this again is a play on number 2, obviously. But even if you don't feel like it's critical to your business's success, although it probably is, when you leave the room, that brand, right? When people talk about you, your business, your team, when you guys are not in the room, what are they saying? What do you hope for them to say? What do you aspire for them to say? Okay. Number 4 is, what values will you be looking for in your future team members? All right. And another way to think about that, if you do already have some team members, are what are the values that you'd love to clone? If you could clone a couple of people on your team and they were just rocking it, why do you want to clone them? What about them makes them so clonable where you're just like, if I could have this person times 5, I would be unstoppable. Okay. All right, next question is, what are the deal breakers or the weaknesses that we need to stay far away from? So this one is obviously the inverse of the previous question, but sometimes this can jiggle a couple of extra ideas out of you, right? Sometimes we are very familiar with what we don't want. So even for me, I'm a highly autonomous leader and individual. I just am. You know what I'm saying? Give me my assignment and give me some headphones and I'm good, right? So I would not do well with team members who needed the proverbial micromanagement. I wouldn't do well with team members who needed to talk to me all the time and consult me on every little thing. And many of us feel that way. So if that's a deal breaker, Write that down, figure out the inverse of it, and maybe that will end up on your list of core values. All right, last question to think about. I want you to think about the most meaningful moment in your business thus far. Like, we all have those moments. There may be a few for you where your heart just swelled and you're just like, this is why I got into this. This is why I started this business. This is why, right? What happened? What went on? And once you kind of paint the picture for yourself about what went on, were there any, values embedded in that experience, right? Are there any character traits that you displayed or a team member displayed or whomever displayed that you're just like, yes, if we could bring this into our company culture on a day-to-day basis, it would feel so good to us. All right, so that is it for the questions that are going to help you brainstorm these core values. But let's take it a step further. So the process is honestly super simple. Once you brainstorm out your list, even if you're just doing it by yourself, if you have people that you can consult, I want you to start the conversation with them. So whether it's in a team meeting or what have you, bring this list to some people, to your team, preferably if you have one, and ask them to add to the list. Ask them the same questions that I just asked you, right? And have them add to the list. And then you are going to systematically start to break it down. You know what I'm saying? And this is one of those things that can only be done through conversation and dialogue. Or if you're doing it yourself, obviously you're going to start to think through it from the perspective of, okay, if I can only choose, 3 to 7, 5 to 7 of these core values, what really, really matters, right? Because ideally you probably generated a list of like 15 to 20. So we just have to sit down, open up the conversation, or just open up our minds and our hearts and start to narrow this sucker down, all right? And I absolutely need to stress this. I wasn't going to say this, but I need to stress this. For my leaders with existing teams, this is not negotiable. You have to bring them into this conversation because allowing them to participate in the brainstorming process and narrowing down what truly matters to your team is what's going to drive that initial commitment. So what we don't want to do is do your brainstorming and then you come up with your list of 5 to 7 core values and just present them to your team. That's how we lose that commitment. You truly want to have your initial thoughts and then open up the floor for them to contribute and narrow things down with them hand in hand as a partnership, because that is going to help build that buy-in, okay? Also, it's going to make this whole thing a lot less random for them. It's going to give you an opportunity to talk to them about why these core values even matter to you and to your business as a whole, okay? Just had to put that out there. So, I am sure that at this point in the episode, you're probably wondering, okay, so we're going to come up with this list of core values. We're going to narrow it down and refine it and really turn it into a couple of statements that truly personify who we are, who we want to be, and how we show up in business and just what we do, what we live by, right? So where are we even going to use these things? Aside from, this is us, right? Post it up on the website. But where else will these core values come into play? Okay, so there are 4 actual processes that you can use your core values in, and you should, honestly, immediately. So the first one should be no surprise to the people who know me best, and that is hiring. I'll put it to you this way. If part of how we defined your core values are, what you will be looking for in future team members and what are the values about your current team members that you love, or, what do you aspire for your team to be, right? Obviously, this needs to be a key component of your hiring process. So how do we do that? One, in just any communication, including your job description, I always recommend if someone has their mission statement, their vision statement, or core values listed out, I always recommend that we embed those into the beginning of any job description to give someone a vibe, to give someone an understanding of who you are and what your business stands for, okay? But even beyond just embedding it into all of your materials and just the way that you talk and present yourself and your company, we definitely want to explicitly incorporate those core values into your interviews. So how do we do that? Simply put, you just want to make sure that you're asking questions that tie directly to those core values if you have them in place. So a super quick example that I love is if a core value of yours is resourcefulness, right? If you ask a situational question like, tell me about a time when you thought that you were able to complete this task or do this project, and as you dug a little bit deeper, you just were having so many issues. How did you handle it? Or how would you handle it, right? And listen closely for their response. So the person who immediately goes maybe to their boss and just asks them what to do, maybe they're not so resourceful. The person who checks various SOPs and Googles a couple of things and references this book, maybe they're a little bit better at using the resources around them before going to, their boss or their CEO or whomever for the support, right? So if that is a core value, we can ask a really good situational question to get at whether this person innately has this core value or not. Okay, so let's talk about the next way that you can utilize core values and embed them into various places in your business. So the second one is onboarding. In the onboarding process, goodness, my friend, there are so many opportunities in onboarding to embed this, but one of the first and very obvious ones is when you do your initial orientation. So when you bring in a new team member and you're just like, okay, let's get you started. Let's hit the ground running. We're going to schedule, 2 hours, 4 hours, a full day, 2 full days to get you onboarded and get you knowing everything you need to know and get you ready to really do the dang thing, right? Literally build all of the talk around what your company stands for, the vision of your company, the core values, your strategy. All of that should come first before we start breaking down, the specific tasks that someone needs to be doing, right? So this is just one of those initial things that you should be discussing in the front end part of that onboarding orientation experience. All right, third way to utilize those core values in your business is in decision making. I love this one. So this isn't necessarily just about your people in your team. It's about literally every decision you make for your business. If you run it through your core values, does it fit, right? So a super easy example is if one of your core values is building community. Super important to your business, to your team, so on and so forth. Okay. If you're looking at a new service or offering, you want to look at it through that lens. So say, does this truly push forward our core value of building community? Is it tied to that? Okay, no, maybe it's not. But is it tied to our core value of giving back or learning and growing? Or, being creative, having fun, being adventurous, whatever your core value is, right? So any given decision or, business choice that you're making, it's really good if it lines up with at least one of your core values, because that shows that you are literally living these core values, not just as a team, not just through how you guys are acting on a day-to-day basis, but also through the actual decisions that you all are making. So that is a fantastic way to apply those core values. Alrighty, and last but not least, one of my favorite ways to utilize your core values is in your feedback, right? So I know that Tide Pod episode number 18 was all about giving tough constructive feedback. And this is one of the lenses through which you may find yourself needing to give some feedback, those core values. So a really practical example of this is, if that client experience, something about giving our clients a wow experience, whatever you worded it as, if that made it into your core values and then one of your team members does something contrary to that core value, then this is a really great feedback opportunity, right? This is a really great opportunity to say, hey, let's talk about how this happened and how that really didn't match our core value of providing a wow client experience. Or on the flip side, if they do something great, if they really like dazzle your client and maybe your client is just like, oh my goodness, I love, Team Tie. I'll use myself as an example. I love Team Tie. I had this question, one of your people really served me up and like helped me out really quickly. And I just really appreciate the support. Oh my goodness, best believe I'm going to Team Tie and I'm saying, you guys, this is a beautiful example of how we just upheld our core value of providing a fantastic client experience. I am so proud. Okay. You see what I'm saying here? So even in feedback, our fourth and final way that you can be embedding these core values, when they're top of mind for you, you truly start looking at the behavior and the decisions that you guys are making as a team through the lens of these core values. And that is where things get really, really real and really just fantastic and culture building for your business. So there you have it, my friend. We have talked all about core values, what they really look like, how you can start to brainstorm and develop your own list of core values, narrow them down to be like real and legit for your team, and then embed them in 4 ways throughout your business. I hope you have at least like one golden nugget that you are taking away from this episode. And look, if you sit down and define your core values, please share them with the world. Email them to me personally, share them on Instagram and tag me in it. I am here for it. This is the work that lights me up. So thank you for tuning in today, and we will see you on the next episode of Tie Pod.